Good evening and welcome to Fired Up. I'm your host for the show, Bob Irwin. We are coming to you live from the gun store here in Las Vegas on East Tropicana. This show is about guns, related politics, and self-defense issues. We are on the air here on KSHP 1400 AM radio and on YouTube every Thursday from 5 to 6 p.m., except last Thursday, which we'll explain in a minute. Tonight's guest is firearms instructor Maggie Mordaunt, who appears with us occasionally. If you would, Maggie, a little bit of your background for new listeners.
For sure. I am Maggie Mordaunt, known as CCW Maggie, owner of Homeland Personal Protection. I'm a defense shooting instructor. I teach law enforcement, military, your everyday civilian. I'm also a hunter marksmanship instructor, Nevada Department of Wildlife instructor as well. That's me in a nutshell.
Okay. Appropriate nutshell.
There you go.
I didn't say that. If you have questions or comments about anything on the show, you can drop us an email to bob@firedupmail.com. It's on one of these little signs right there. So we'll leave that up for a little bit. Questions or comments or subjects you'd like to hear on the show. If it's a question for Maggie, I can forward it to her, although you can also find her under CCW Maggie about every search engine that exists. There she is. The show, we generally talk about defensive issues with firearms. The mainstream media doesn't give a lot of instances of firearms being used properly, so we kind of are here to counter that and to comment on events where the shooter could have done maybe something a little bit better, a little bit, would have been a little smarter. Some are good shootings we're going to talk about tonight. Some are goofy shootings. Some, once in a while, one just is plain wrong. But I picked these out of the couple of hundred shootings a week we have in the United States because they have an educational value to people who keep a gun in their house or people who carry a gun on the street. To what happened to these particular individuals. We generally don't use their names. We just use the area of the country it took place in. So you can look it up on the internet if you want to get more details on the case. But the idea is we'll go through an event and say that was good, but maybe if he'd done this, it would have been better. And he wouldn't have been sued over it and that sort of thing. So we will start out with a few of those. And then we got a couple of interesting issues to talk about on this show also that have come up this week. We'll start out. This is WMC Action News 5 in Cordova, Tennessee. On the 22nd, the Shelby County Sheriff's Office is investigating after a woman said she shot her husband Sunday morning. Probably happens, I guess. The spokesman for the SCSO, that's the sheriff's department, said the woman called and said she shot her husband in the chest at their home in Cordova. The woman told deputies her husband was not supposed to be in the home. They are separated. He was later taken to the regional medical center in critical condition. I don't have an update on that. The wife said she shot her husband in self-defense after the husband lunged at her during an argument and she pulled the trigger. She said, it happened. I didn't want anyone to get hurt, but I had to protect myself. She is in a vulnerable state from a car wreck earlier in the summer. She has a back brace, a knee brace, and a broken spine. And he lunged at her. Great. She called 911 while her daughter was upstairs, who woke up. The daughter said she heard a pop and came rushing to her father's side. He is now expected to survive. The deputies had visited the couple on domestic violence calls in the past. No charges have been filed in the case, but there is still an ongoing investigation. There was a restraining order in effect here. The husband is not allowed on the property. For all you morons out there, that means you don't go on the property. If you want to talk to your ex-wife, girlfriend, or whatever it is, ex in front of, have your attorney send her a note. Don't do it yourself. It's against the law.
Right.
I'm sure the investigation will quickly show this is a good self-defense shooting and no charges will be filed. But I do want to make a point here. There is a protective order in place in this case, which immediately shows the investigators and the jury, if it comes to that, who was right. If there's a protective order, that is evidence that he has previously committed bad acts. A judge has agreed he's committed bad acts, and sent him a note, usually in the hand of a marshal, and said, don't ever go to this lady's house again and stay 100 feet away, or whatever the thing is. That really helps the woman in this case. Suppose she didn't. She just ran him off, and she didn't tell anybody they were fighting and he was violent. Right. And now all of a sudden she says, oh my God, he was violent.
Right. You see a lot of cases like that. Yeah. You see a lot of cases like that, though. In this case, she did have a restraining order. He's breaking the law as it is, and now breaking the law even further, offering her that personal violence, domestic violence, that is. I think this is a clean case where it's going to show that she was well within her right to defend herself. Yeah, and that record of the restraining order will just make this a slam dunk for a court looking at it. Yeah. So she wins, and she won't end up in jail. It's an unfortunate thing to go through. It's fortunate for her that, in my opinion, he didn't die. Right. Because that's something nobody really wants to live with. He'll recover. Yeah. And hopefully learned that he shouldn't go where a judge has said, don't go there. Right. That's a big deal. Questions or comments? Again, you can reach me or Maggie at bob@firedupmail.com. And I request that you like us on Facebook. We're collecting likes, and that gets you on our mailing list and so forth. Yay. Like. WSHTV2, which is NBC in Oviedo, Florida. A man was shot outside a house after deputies say he allegedly tried to break in and the homeowner opened fire. This took place at 11 p.m. Saturday night on Van Arsdale Street. The Seminole County Sheriff said it started when the homeowner heard someone trying to open the door of his house. That's when he came outside and confronted the suspect. Deputies say the homeowner fired his gun after the suspect hid in the bushes, then charged at the homeowner when the homeowner told him to come out. The suspect was taken to the hospital, non-life-threatening injuries in this case. The gunshots pierced a quiet rural area, startling a neighbor who says he called 911. He said, I heard a couple of big booms. I didn't know what it was. My dog started barking. I came out on the porch and saw a young man in the road. An older gentleman I know who lives across the street said, please call the cops. Please call the cops. The deputies blocked off the road and spent several hours. The neighbor said, I've been here almost 30 years. Nothing like that ever happens out here. It's just unbelievable. I said, we have to protect our property. Almost every shooting case, you hear that. Nothing ever happens here until it did. This is a good shoot. However, him going outside to meet the threat was a really, really bad idea. Lots could go wrong when you decide to leave your house. What we want to do is advise people, if you've got a prowler or somebody outside, stay in the house, call 911, and wait. Often the authorities will arrive before the guy breaks in, or he'll try the door and realize it's locked and go somewhere else. You basically opened the door and just said, "Come on in." But you look at what could go wrong when you go outside. Yeah. Well, one, the police could already be there, and you're walking out with a gun, and they're looking for a prowler, and they go, "Drop the gun," and you go, "Me," and they shoot you. Or the bad guy shoots you because he's hiding in the bushes and you don't see him. Or, what could go right? You win the gunfight, that could go right, but why put yourself in harm's way? Exactly. If you barricade and respond if necessary. You can sign up and go to the Middle East, Right, right. Yeah, in this case, the guy was in a safe place, put himself in an unsafe place, almost like he was, looking for a fight. He was, like you said, better off in his home, safe in his home. He knows his home better than hopefully this person who's, out there giving him trouble. But yeah, I always say evade, barricade, and respond with necessary force. law enforcement's on the way. Several people called 911, it looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah, let the police officers do their job for you. That's what our tax dollars pay for.
Don't go out there. You see,
No.
you stay in your house. You stay away from the door the guy's trying to break into. You call 911, leave the phone off the hook.
Great, yeah.
Leave the phone off the hook so they hear the door breaking. They hear you yelling, get out of my house. Then they hear the shot. Create the witness sitting in the dispatch office miles away that will tell the whole world you fired in self-defense. We present here at the gun store a ladies only personal safety class, shooting class, twice a month. Second and fourth Friday. It's taught by Maggie Mordaunt, noted instructor, sitting to my left.
It's an amazing class, a very empowering class, and they get the chance to shoot several different guns. I know that when they come out, they get that first touch and that first time ever to understand the nomenclature of a handgun. We talk about ammunition. We talk about safety as a skill. It's just very empowering. The ladies come out, you know, some of them start out kind of scared, but once they fully understand the workings of that firearm, they leave here ready for the next class. They really do.
If you're afraid of guns, that's normal.
Yeah.
Most people that don't have guns are afraid of guns because they see all this mayhem.
Yeah.
It's a simple tool you can learn how to use, and it's your best friend.
Exactly.
Maggie will walk you all through that. It's a great class. If you're a lady out there that's worried about defending yourself, second and fourth Friday, you can sign up on our website. Maggie's websites have the same information to go to the class. Take advantage of it so you know what you're doing when the bad guy comes through the door.
That's right.
This is from the News and Record in Greensboro, North Carolina on the 19th of last month. The Guilford District Attorney's Office have determined the death of a man who was shot multiple times last month was justified. This is a robber. He is 27 years old. He was shot while robbing a man back on July 13th, said the Chief Assistant DA. He said the deceased was with another man at the time of the shooting. He described as a co-conspirator. That subject, age 26, is now facing charges in the robbery. Investigators said the two men went to some apartments on Guilford College Road about 9:45 with the intent of robbing somebody there. The pair didn't know the victim. The robbery apparently wasn't random. Greensboro police said the man at the address was robbed and beaten in front of his family. The victim of the robbery then grabbed a gun as he's being beaten and opened fire. We had a little fight there. He was pistol whipped actually and knocked to the ground. Then he got his gun and fired at these guys. The victim grabbed the deceased's gun. The victim grabbed didn't get his own gun. He grabbed the gun from the robber.
And
And
the robber.
fired, he believes, 6 or 7 times. We didn't get that clear in the police reports. The defendant then ran from the apartment, was arrested a week later, charged with robbery with a dangerous weapon, assault with a deadly weapon, etc. He was also served with outstanding warrants for several probation violation charges that I won't go into. He's currently in jail on $360,000 bail and scheduled to appear. I put this in here because it's easier to defend yourself if you have your own gun.
Yes.
After the guy hits you upside the head with his gun, wrestling it away from him is a really difficult plan.
Right.
If you are in a position where you think this is likely, don't be the unarmed victim. This guy is incredibly lucky to be alive.
Yes.
That the bad guy was dumb enough to let him be close enough to grab the gun is amazingly stupid. But this guy is not in the gene pool anymore anyway. So there was some question when I read this. There were some comments on the online story. Why did he shoot him 6 or 7 times? I would guess that's probably because that's all the rounds were in the bad guy's gun. Nobody counts rounds in real.
No.
This guy is hit upside the head with a gun. He fights, gets the gun away from the guy, and shoots. Do you really believe he's going, let's see, how many was that?
Let me count that. 1, 2, 3.
He has no idea. They never do. Trained cops in real gunfights have no idea. So there's no issue with the number of rounds fired. If you could shoot the guy once, it's okay to shoot him 5 times. You don't want to shoot him half hour later. That's bad. But this is okay. The advice you learn from this: have a gun in your house.
Right. It is the ultimate equalizer. It is a tool that can stop a threat much more quickly. I think in this case, they did ask him, how come you shot so many times? And a lot of people don't understand that the body goes through a survival mode. And there are times that when you are faced with this surprising, chaotic, threatening situation, that psychologically sometimes you just don't believe it, and you get this adrenaline dump to the brain, and you experience something that's called tachypsychia. Tachypsychia is that time dilation. You get a sense of temporary amnesia. Things around you just don't really register, and you're just in that survival mode. And so you just kind of just go. It's not something that is easily controlled. And like you said, police officers, I've seen cases where police officers say, well, no, I only shot, 2 or 3 times. Well, we actually found, 6 or 7 or 8 shell casings on the ground, because they'll do their investigations, and everything kind of shows up. And like you said, we don't spot shot. We don't go, did I shoot him once? Did I see how many shots landed? It's unrealistic.
If your life's in danger, you're not thinking that. You are reacting, not thinking. So it does not pass through the reasoning part of your brain. Therefore, you don't remember, and you really don't. So don't think if you're talking to the police after shooting, you have to remember all this stuff.
No.
They know real people shooting in self-defense do not remember. It may come back to you later. It's in there somewhere, usually, not always. But when you're talking to the cops after something like this, don't make stuff up. If you don't know, just say, I have no idea.
Right.
That's fine. And then your next sentence is, I think I'd like to talk to an attorney. Rightly or wrongly.
Right.
You need a lawyer. We'll talk about that in other instances here.
Oh, yeah, definitely should.
Trussville Tribune reported on the 19th. This is in Center Point, Alabama. According to Sergeant at the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office, an off-duty female deputy shot another female in her home on Friday. The shooter, the lady in the home, had a restraining order against the victim. Just after 5 p.m., deputies responded to report a person had been shot at the residence, 200 block of Saturn Lane. He said an adult female called the sheriff's office and reported she had just shot someone at her residence. She also reported having a protection order against the person who was shot. The deputies arrived to find a 32-year-old female suffering from gunshot wounds. She was transported to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. The information on the scene was that the women had been in a dating relationship. The victim of the shooting was issued a copy of the protective order and had come to the house to discuss it. Bad move. An argument ensued. Now there's a surprise. And she was shot when the 2 women got into a fight. The woman who fired the shots is a Jefferson County deputy sheriff. She's assigned to the jail. She was off duty at the time. The investigation is ongoing. Now, the victim should have followed the restraining order, but the off-duty cop knows even better. She should have never invited her into her home to discuss the restraining order. What is possibly going to come off that's good? You can talk on a phone, you can talk through your lawyers. There's probably no contact anyway for the phones.
Well, yeah, through the phones. Once in some cases, if you have a restraining order, if you start talking to the person who you have the restraining order against, it kind of looks bad on you. Like, why did you need the restraining order to begin with? And like you said, talk through your attorneys. Use the legal system to work for you. That's what you're paying them to do. This is kind of a bad situation. Both ladies made a bad decision, and now you have the slayer and the slain.
One got shot, and one may well be charged with a crime because she invited the other one over, which violates the protective order. So this case is one I really should have an attorney on the show for. We've got 2 people both violating the protective order, and common sense.
Mhm.
So which one's a crime victim, or which one could sue the other one when they
Right.
both participated? The lady deputy knows better. I would presume the other one does too. If
Yeah.
they've been in a relationship for a while, she knows the rules about protective
Yeah.
orders.
Yeah.
I mean, you living with a cop, you learn that kind of stuff.
Well, yeah, it's a
So,
little osmosis sometimes, and this is kind of a bait and switch situation, you know? Yeah.
This is, if you're a cop, don't invite your ex over to discuss the restraining order they just filed on you, or you just filed on them.
Yeah.
Not smart.
No.
I want to mention we teach here at the gun store concealed firearm permit classes every Monday, every Wednesday, and every Saturday, 3 times a week.
That's nice.
The class is basically free. We charge for the ammunition for qualifications, so forth, but the class is yours. You'll find them on our website, thegunstorelasvegas.com. You can sign up for them online. We hold about 45 people in each class, so we usually got lots of room. Saturdays are a little tough. We get full. Sign up in advance, and you'll be sure to get a seat. And you'll learn stuff that will save your bacon later. Don't wait. Do it while you have the time, because it's too late once you're already involved in the shooting. You go, I wonder what he would have told me to do. Learn. Comments, questions, bob@firedupmail.com. This was, I think this is
Louisiana.
yeah. This boy, this is a great case. This is from the Pelican Post News in Gonzales, Louisiana. We all read that paper. I know you subscribe.
Sure.
If you don't get the Pelican Post News out of Gonzales, Louisiana, you should get it. I find the little town papers publish all this stuff, and there's no way that NBC News is going to carry, that kind of stuff. That's where I find all these little cases. If you're really curious to where does he get all this stuff, I got a carnivore program that searches for them. The Pelican Post News, this is from the 20th of last month, it said that shortly before 8 p.m. on a Friday night, deputies responded to the 4,000 block of Fox Run Drive in reference to a domestic disturbance. Deputies arrived on scene and located a neighbor standing in the front yard of a residence holding a handgun. The neighbor is in front of the house where this took place, holding a handgun. He told deputies he came to the residence because he heard a disturbance and came to see if he could help. As he approached the residence, he encountered a 43-year-old male, a resident of that second house, who was armed with a handgun and pointed the gun directly at his arriving neighbor. The neighbor, fearing for his life, fired first, striking the resident and killing him. You with me on this now? The neighbor hears screaming, actually, takes his gun, comes over to the next door house. The guy who lives there is on the lawn with a gun, points it at the neighbor who is now intruding onto his property.
Right.
So the neighbor coming to help fires first, kills the guy holding the gun, standing on his own lawn. This is going to get better. He was in fear of his life. He fired the gun. The investigation, the deputies learned the resident's wife came to the sheriff's office back in February, filed a restraining order on her husband, the dead guy. At the time of his death, the restraining order was active, and the resident and his wife were due in court at the end of the week. 6 days after the shooting took place was a court hearing on this restraining order that already existed. It was just to see if they wanted to continue it, was why they were going back to court.
Right. Extend it. Yep.
Yeah. The neighbor that the police said will not be charged in the murder, according to their press release. The deputy chief said he's from the Ascension Parish Sheriff's Office. This is a really hard case.
Yeah.
The guy's beating up his wife. She's screaming. The neighbor comes over to help and shoots the guy, but he's over on the property, and the guy pointed a gun at him because he's trespassing.
Mhm.
Here we go. There'll be a long argument here between attorneys when this goes to court as to whether the guy should have moved onto the property, should have just called the police and got out of the way. That would be a good plan. If he believes this individual is about to murder his wife, and that's why he came to help. As soon as he saw the guy on the lawn, he should have backed off because he can see the guy's not where he can beat up his wife.
Right.
This is where you got to have the sense to wait for the police, because we've got, I mean, the guy who's dead is a bad guy. He's beating his wife. But now we're looking at lawsuits and legal stuff, and he's on his own property. The helpful neighbor walks onto his property with a gun,
Right.
sees him with a gun, and shoots him. Now, there's reasonable belief that the guy was about to shoot him,
Right.
but he came onto his property with a gun. I'd love to be a fly on the wall when this thing goes to court.
Yeah.
I don't work on cases in Gonzales, Louisiana. It would be interesting to see all the details of this. This is one of the ones I'm going to try and follow up on with listeners as this takes place, because this is going to be, who's right? Maggie?
You know, the guy's outside. No shots have been fired yet. He is on his lawn with a gun. The police have been called. To me, it looks like maybe it would have been a shootout, and I'm just kind of creating a scenario. If the police showed up, the guy's on the front lawn with a gun in his hand, maybe he would have been shot by the police anyway, because he's got a firearm in his hand. He's presenting a lethal threat. I'm not a lawyer, but
yeah, he might have pointed it at the police because he's agitated,
right.
and they would have shot him.
There is a restraining
That's
order.
different.
Yeah, but
than
there's also
the
that
neighbor.
restraining order, right? Still, but I mean,
He
is
shouldn't
this-
have been there.
He shouldn't have been there. There's a police officer that lives next door. They're probably going to question his use of force. Of course, there's no cameras. They didn't talk about any cameras here, but.
Well, this guy, the shooter, is not a police officer.
Oh,
He's
the shooter's
just,
not a
he's just
police
a helpful neighbor.
Oh,
He's a retired
okay.
guy.
So we've
They
got.
didn't say what he used to be. That I
Oh,
recall
it was
reading.
the parish sheriff's chief said.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the chief
definitely.
said.
So there is that potential. You know,
I understand why they didn't charge the guy with murder, but I also understand why the investigation is still continuing, because boy, the DA is going to look at this and go, whoa.
Yeah.
I can hear the relatives of the dead guy saying, yeah, he beat his wife. He shouldn't have done it, but he wasn't beating her at the time. There's no immediate need, and this guy walks onto his property and shoots him dead.
Right. So
whoa, there's way
Yeah.
more to it than that. But
There
in
is.
simpler terms, you can make an argument for either side.
right.
It's
Most definitely. And I mean, I think that even if he's on his own property, if there's a guy standing out there with a gun, and again, we should probably just follow up and kind of see what the whole story is. But
I got to see what happens.
if there was any malicious willful intent or something like that,
I'm just
fancy lawyer words.
Don't do this.
Don't do it.
If your neighbor's fighting, beating up his wife, you go over there to see help. See the guy is not in the house with her at the moment. Wait for the cops. That's the advice we get from this one.
There's that thing called a window. Look out the window and just keep an eye on what's going on.
Nothing's
Right.
News Center 811 TV. This is in Choctaw County, Mississippi. Home invasion happened near Sea Warrior Road in the southeastern part of Choctaw County Thursday night. No specific time was given in the reports, which would make a difference in this. Whether it was midnight or 3 a.m. or 6 at night, it didn't say which. So you can't visualize. It's completely dark. We don't know. 3-armed suspect approached a rural home, kicked in the door, made entry, and started shooting. Wow. Just came in, basically firing. According to Scott Lawley, the homeowner shot back in self-defense. The sheriff said upon deputies' arrival, one suspect was deceased. The preliminary investigation reveals there's strong evidence there were 3 male suspects. The homeowner returned fire, hitting one of the 3. And you do have a right to protect yourself inside your home, and you have the right to protect anyone inside. It's a quote from the sheriff. True. Investigators cleared the scene Friday morning, and area law enforcement is actively looking for the other two men, of course. The sheriff is hoping to gain more leads in the attempted robbery once they can identify the man who was killed during the robbery. He was carrying no identification, and nobody recognized him. The homeowner didn't know who he was. Apparently, it's an isolated house, and they thought, well, here we go. The reason, immediately you would look at what I've told you so far and go, it's a drug robbery.
Mm-hmm.
No. The sheriff said there have been several other similar crimes in the area in the past year. This is not a drug house. This is these three guys just picking it, and this is their MO.
Random.
They kick in your door sometime at night. That's why I wish the time was on it. Fortunately, the owner was up and awake and had a gun near him.
Mm-hmm.
So as he was able to return fire. And I don't want to tell you you should always sit in your living room with a gun on the table, but depends where you are. And if the sheriff in Choctaw County said this is common in their area and there have been several others, probably that was the reason he was sitting there with a gun next to him.
Right. History of robberies in the neighborhood. People are obviously in that neighborhood putting together their home defense plans, prepared for any type of situation like this. And I wonder if these three guys that have been doing this, and if they are the ones who have been doing this in that neighborhood, people are prepared for it.
The sheriff suspects it's the same
Right,
group,
same
that there
group,
may
yeah.
be four of them, and it's a different mix of the three every time.
Right, right. Well,
But
this
it
guy was
is
smart to be
so
prepared.
unusual to kick in the door and come in firing.
Right. It's-
Whoever's in front, in the living room gets killed right off the bat.
Right. What kind of
these
mindset
are
is that?
Bad guys.
Jeez.
Again, free for concealed firearm classes every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. You can find them on our website, thegunstorelasvegas.com, and like us on Facebook.
Facebook. Social media.
This is a sad thing, and it's here because of gun safety issues. This was not on the national news. It's a local little thing in Iowa. This is WCMH TV, Channel 4 in Garner, Iowa. A young boy died after apparently accidental shooting at a firing range. Not that in itself, there's been a couple of these cases over the last year or so. This is, police say, a news release. The 10-year-old of Clear Lake suffered a head wound Sunday afternoon from a pellet gun at the Garner shooting range. The Garner city administrator said Wednesday the boy and a younger brother went to the range with their grandfather. He said what exactly occurred at the range remains unclear. No charges, though, were expected to be filed. Police have characterized the incident as an accidental shooting death. Basically, they go in the range. The grandfather is not carefully watching, and one of the boys, for some reason, pointed an air rifle, is a CO2 BB gun, and the rifle at the other, and accidentally fired it, apparently, and killed him. For information of listeners, if you would like, there's if you'd like to help the family, you can donate to the Cade Hartwig Trust at the Clear Lake Bank and Trust. That is in Garner, Iowa. I'm sure you can find it on the website, Garner, Iowa, Cade Hartwig Trust.
So first name Cade, C-A-D-E, last name
Cade
Hartwig.
Hartwig.
It's Hartwig. That is in trust at Clear Lake Bank and Trust. You can probably find that online, like Bob said. Donate to the family if maybe they have a GoFundMe page or something like that.
This is just,
yeah.
I mean,
It's sad.
gun safety, even with pellet guns, we're all aware that pellet guns, particularly modern air and CO2 guns, launch BBs and pellets at 400 or 500 feet per second for the cheap stuff, and lethal 1,000 feet per second for the expensive stuff. this is like, leaving these two kids with this gun is like leaving a baby in a 1-inch bath. They can roll over on their face and drown in a half an inch of water. Children watch stupid stuff all the time on television and video games. They play gunfights, this and that. When they've got real guns, and BB guns that are CO2 powered particularly are treated like real guns. One of the cases I worked many years ago was a lawsuit that was the same result, a little different. A 12-year-old was over at a house where a girl lived who was also 12, neighbor, and the mom had left a pump up air rifle in the garage where she let the kids shoot the air rifle with no supervision. When they were, the girl, her older brother, who was not home at this instant, but the girl, and this is her 12-year-old boyfriend, were allowed in the garage. They were allowed to shoot the gun at little knockdown targets in the garage. It's one of those air rifles where you pump it up, and it has engraved on the receiver, don't pump more than 2 times. So how many times does a 12-year-old pump that?
Maybe
we're guesstimating
10 times more.
We're guesstimating 12 to 14. To show off to the girl how tough he was, he then took this pumped air rifle, turned it around, put it in the center of his chest, and pressed the trigger. The bullet obviously went through his clothing, it went through his skin, it went between his ribs, and it stopped on top of his aorta. Another 1/10 of an inch, it would have killed him. Ambulances were called and so on, and he was in critical condition in the hospital for a while. Just showing off to the girl how tough he was, that watch this. Well, he almost died. What happened in the lawsuit, I came into the lawsuit as an expert for the family of the kid that shot himself, and because of medical bills and so forth that he encompassed, this wasn't covered by the medical insurance they had. The 12-year-old shot himself intentionally, so the medical coverage backed off. The homeowners backed off, the homeowners insurance, because it was an intentional act. And she left the gun intentionally for them to play with. They didn't break in anything to get it. And believe it or not, the family defended themselves in the case by saying, their attorney, that the 12-year-old should have known better, and we'd expect more reasonable behavior out of a 12-year-old of normal intelligence. I would expect a 12-year-old boy with a 12-year-old girl he's trying to impress to do the most stupid possible thing he could do. That's what 12-year-olds do. That's why the gun had engraved on the receiver, not for anybody unsupervised if they're not at least 16 years old, is engraved on the receiver. I was just flabbergasted. They said, this 12-year-old boy acted irresponsibly, therefore it's his fault. 12-year-old boys always act irresponsibly. That's what 12-year-olds do. Anyway, it cost his family a lot of money. Fortunately, the kid didn't die. And I expect he's learned his lesson about showing off to girlfriends by shooting yourself in the chest.
Well, there's a lot to look at here. There's, kids not being taught, proper firearm safety. Starting your kids at a very young age, teaching them, firearm safety is very important, but getting them professional training from a vetted instructor is probably better, because your kids are tired of hearing the words come out of the parent's mouth. I call that Charlie Brown syndrome. Charlie Brown, wop, 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 wop. That's all they hear from their parents. They need to hear it from someone else. They need to learn that firearm safety. I teach firearm safety to kids. We do in the home and outside the home for either recreational or self-defense, even for kids. And so it's just really important. And so, you know, in these several different cases, it just seems to me that, you know, the parents need to let someone else do it, which is the responsible thing to do. To get someone else, whether it's maybe an uncle or an aunt or maybe somebody who's, you know, through else to the family. Most definitely. And I mean, I love training kids, and kids are like sponges, and you know, once they get that information, they retain it at a young age, and as they grow, they learn more and more about it and develop that respect for it, which is really important. And just to kind of touch on the whole, you know, guys will do things to impress girls. Yeah, it's not just 12-year-olds. I'm just saying. Once I had a guy actually jump off of a cliff into the pond just to show me that he could actually jump off that high cliff into the pond. Well, he landed wrong. He belly flopped into the pond and ruptured his spleen. He no longer has a spleen.
The femme fatale that you are. Men are jumping off cliffs for her.
You know,
Does
guys.
Ken know about this?
Yeah, he knows all about it.
Okay.
But I'm married now.
This is kind of cool. This is Fox News on the 23rd, East Point, Michigan. There was some national press on this a little bit. 91-year-old man shot and wounded another man during an apparent robbery attempt outside a Detroit Rite Aid store. East Point police say the intended victim was leaving his vehicle Monday morning when he was approached by a male subject behaving in an erratic manner. The elderly man got out of his car and walked up to the Rite Aid. As he got closer to the Rite Aid, he saw the subject walking toward him, holding something in his right hand. The 91-year-old man shouted that he was armed and urged the guy to back off.
De-escalation.
Ignoring the warnings, the guy continued his approach with an unknown object held high above his head. The intended victim then pulled out a .38 caliber revolver and fired at him from a distance of about 10 feet and missed. The subject continued forward, and the elderly man fired again. That struck the guy in the neck. The East Point police said the subject had a piece of metal in his hand he intended to use as a weapon. It looked like a broken shelf bracket or something. The Detroit News quoted the investigators saying the elderly man warned the second man 3 or 4 times and even had the gun out pointed at him, and the suspect kept coming, and he pointed the unknown object, this piece of shelf metal gun, at the victim. The would-be attacker was shot in the neck. He was hospitalized in the county jail, and now in the county jail at $50,000 bond. Macomb prosecutor's office has determined no criminal charges will be filed against the 91-year-old concealed pistol license holder. The prosecutor, Eric Smith, also authorized an arrest warrant charging the wounded robber with assault with a dangerous weapon. Smith said this is a textbook case of a concealed pistol license, why concealed pistol licenses are issued, and he's correct there. He said American citizens have the right to protect themselves in the face of a clear assault. Good shoot, all of that. I mean, 91-year-old guy. But the reason I put this in here was this is the 5% guy. When you warn bad guys that you have a gun, or you show them a gun, or you allude to a gun in your house or on the street or attempted carjacking, statistically 19 out of 20 leave. They do not continue the attack when they know you have a gun. This is the guy that did. And if he didn't die, unfortunately, he'll probably still be in the gene pool for a while. 91-year-old guy, what else is he going to do? You know, going to wrestle with the guy? Of course not.
No.
Verbal warnings were issued and ignored.
Right.
This is the guy who continues to come forward. Now, I can argue either way that whether the guy really missed or he's firing a warning shot. But in either case, a bullet whizzed by this guy, big loud noise, and he kept coming. Wacko, you know, death wish. He's not aware of his surroundings. He's high on drugs, whatever it is. This is the 5% of people who don't run or disengage when you warn them. They're out there. This is why you carry a gun. It isn't for the guy that you pointed at and he runs away. I mean, it works and it saves your bacon and all that.
Right.
It's for this guy who you need to shoot because he keeps on coming. They're out there, whether it's drugs or insanity or alcohol or, you know, we'll probably know one day what motivated this guy. I would guess he's just nuts.
Well, yeah, he may have been on drugs, like you said. This 91-year-old at that age, you know, they have ailments, and he may have had some medication that this would-be maybe drug addict was trying to get. And so his psychological mindset was, hey, that guy's old. He's going to miss me anyway. He missed me the first time. Maybe he'll miss me the second time.
That's
at 91 years old, I'm just thinking this guy may actually have prior, you know, experience with a firearm. At 91, we know that he was probably in Vietnam.
Probably does, but he doesn't remember.
But he doesn't remember, you know. So I think he was lucky. He improvised and he got lucky, and the Slayer got the guy.
I just, you see this so rarely that the guy he's warning him, yelling several times, according to witnesses, pointing the gun and fires at less than 10 feet.
Yeah.
And the guy ignores it. I mean, like,
well, yeah.
Wow.
I mean, we're talking the guy must have been on drugs.
Okay. Couple of things here. I always want to remind listeners, Hillary Clinton had stated that she will repeal her term, the Protection and Lawful Commerce in Firearms Act. That if that happens, if she becomes president, it will close the gun industry because it makes it so that manufacturers, distributors, or retailers are liable for criminal misuse of their products after they're sold into commerce legally. So I sell somebody a gun, 2 years later it gets stolen, or he gives it to somebody else, or he, having passed the background check 2 years ago, goes out and murders somebody, the murder victim's family can sue me for giving the guy the gun. There's no insurance in the world made for that, third-party defenses, and the whole industry is gone. So bear that in mind when you're voting, that you need to vote for anyone other than Hillary Clinton if you own a gun, because it's going away. This week, we've got multiple gun shows going on. The Las Vegas Gun Shows at the Sports Center on Sunset this weekend, Saturday and Sunday. I will be there at that show at least most of the day Saturday. The rest of our crew will be at the other gun show, the Crossroads of the West Gun Show at Cashman.
It's actually the Rocky Mountain Gun Show.
Rocky Mountain. Yeah, I have the wrong one in here.
Yeah, it's the Rocky Mountain Gun Show coming up this weekend.
I wrote them backwards. I wrote the other one.
Yeah, there you go.
Whatever. It's one of the big gun shows. We'll be at Rocky Mountain. I'll be at Cashman. Tony D, our gunsmith, will be there on Saturday. One of our young ladies will be there on Sunday explaining about our classes and this and the other thing. After that weekend, we have another gun show, the Western Trails Gun Show at the Santa Fe Casino on Rancho. It's on the 10th and 11th. And then we do have Rocky Mountain coming up October 29 and 30. It will also be at Cashman. That's further on in October. So we'll just go. There's two this weekend. We'll be at both of them a little thin in our, because I'm going to be there by myself.
I'll actually be there as well.
You're going to be at which one?
I'll be at the Rocky Mountain Gun Show as well as the Crossroads of the West Gun Show.
Both?
Yeah, whenever they come into town, I usually go to both.
Yes. Are you teaching at one or?
I'm actually teaching at the Rocky Mountain Gun Show on Sunday the 4th. Also teaching, I'm teaching on the 3rd, but not at the gun show. On the 4th, I'm teaching at the gun show.
Okay, so there's a CCW class there.
Yes.
At the gun show on Sunday, and it's how much to go in?
It's $89 for the Rocky Mountain Gun Show CCW class.
Wow, ours on Saturday ahead of that is free, you know.
Yeah, it's a little different though.
It is. It is a little bit different. Maggie is a great instructor, and you know, and that narrow area where competitors are really not. Maggie teaches here for us also.
Hey, I recommend people to
I
come and take the classes
send
here all
everybody
the
to our
time.
classes. They're great.
Yes, we're on the
And
same mission.
You will, yeah, the idea is you get training.
Yes.
So we're cheaper, but she's cuter. So, you know, in fact, you're way cuter than Jeremy, our main instructor. So,
I
yeah,
love Jeremy.
go to that one. We'll be back next Thursday from 5 to 6 p.m. We've got, next Thursday, we have Alan Butel coming on, attorney, and we're going to hit with him really in depth the medical marijuana card. Now, according to the Ninth Circuit, says that if you have one of those, you can't buy a gun. That's the law. If you have a medical marijuana card, you cannot buy firearms. And the question is, of course, if you can't buy them, can you keep the ones you already have?
No. Is it no?
That's my
Pretty
best
sure it's
guess.
no, yeah.
They're
You
going
can't
to
get a
appeal the
CCW either,
case,
by the way.
but the case is in effect now.
Yeah.
For the 9 states in the western region that are under the Ninth Circuit. They're going to appeal it to the U.S. Supreme Court or to be reheard by the entire Ninth Circuit. That's going to take 6 months to happen or 2 years to happen. Another reason not to have Hillary appointing Supreme Court justices, but be that as it may, that is going to be a huge issue. We're going to discuss it in depth with an attorney where we think your legal standing may be. If you have one of those cards, we're going to skip the last story because we ran out of time. So we got Sports Center. If you have a question or comment for me you want to talk about personally, I will be there most of the day Saturday, usually with a sign on the table going, I'm wandering around the show. I'll be right back.
Also, I'd like to say vote no on one. Please, yeah, we've got the blue.
We got
right here.
no on, there it is.
There it is.
No on one, no on one.
Vote no on one. Okay, this is,
The gun registration thing, which will come out of the universal background checks, will cause Hillary to have her list. The Attorney General's come out against it, the governor's come out against it, so we'll hit it more toward the election, but no on one is a great thing to remember.
yes.
It will really affect your ability to keep your firearms. I'm just not a big believer, and the government needs to know you own the gun.
Right.
Unless you're committing a crime with it, then you go to jail.
There you go. There are those laws that are currently in place that need to be enforced. We don't
Bad
we don't
guys
need more.
already don't do background checks when they buy them on the street. So there we are. We should be up on about a minute, I think. Okay, we addressed the gun shows and that Alan will be here next week. Next week is going to be a just really interesting show.
Right.
Trying to sort through the legal issues of the Ninth Circuit. It may be a huge problem. I mean, this covers Hawaii too, where more people smoke pot than here, percentage-wise.
More than Colorado?
I've been in Hawaii. That goes way back there. But you ever heard of Maui Wowie?
Pretty wowie.
My
And it was
favorite.
pretty wowie.
Anyway, this will be a big issue because the question is, of course, from the Ninth Circuit is, you have a prescription drug that the feds consider to be a Schedule I narcotic, like some other prescription drugs. Are you also going to be banned from buying or possessing firearms if this decision of the Ninth Circuit stands?
That's right.
There's a huge amount of gray area on here.
Right.
And
Looking at pain management
It's,
drugs and things like that.
precisely.
Yeah. If it's judicially declared that you can't own firearms because of that certain
Well,
medication.
it just was declared you can't buy one.
Well, yeah.
So
Can't buy
if you can't buy one because you have a medical marijuana card, why would you be able to possess a gun?
Right.
If that would even make sense.
Yeah.
So people that bought guns last week before this decision can keep their guns, but one's buying them today can't buy them. Obviously, that
That's a lot
doesn't
of legal
work
stuff.
under our
A
Constitution.
lot of legal stuff.
So thanks for listening. We'll be back next Thursday with a great show on marijuana and guns.
Oh, boy.
Don't fail to miss it.
You'd be high to miss it.
Thank you for watching. See you next week.
See you later.